Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange. Stories, tools, and wisdom shared by leaders for leaders to help you raise the bar on your own excellence and release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's show.
Hey, this is Hugh Ballou. Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange. I've got a great guest today, great topic. The topic is sustained momentum begins with a simple equation. Master it. My guest is Chip Higgins. He's a business strategist and performance coach focused on helping leaders create sustained momentum through clarity, discipline, and simple, repeatable systems. This is my stuff. I love this. His work emphasizes, it's the first day with my new teeth. No, emphasizes practical execution over complexity, guiding entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders to align their actions with measurable outcomes. Through his teaching, Chip demonstrates how consistent focus on the right inputs can generate long-term growth, impact, and organizational success. So, Chip, welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange, despite my tripping over my mouth today.
It's
So,
contagious, Hugh. I'll do the same probably.
yeah, well, so talk about this simple equation that you refer to for sustained momentum, and why is it so powerful for leaders?
I'm a big believer in the universal things. I think that at least for now, we're in a world that we understand, and a lot of things have been tested to be proven to be true. And when I hear small business owners and leaders talk about the desire for momentum, it always makes me stop and think, well, is it a word, or is there a grounding in the universal with it? And it bothered me for a while. That's how I developed my book. But when you can apply the universal to something that is so important to you that you would lead a nonprofit organization to affect change in the world. I just believe that's something that should be understood and leveraged up, every single day. So, big people debate with me about. I've had many conversations where people say, "Well, that's really a useful metaphor," and I always kind of stop them and say, "Well, for you it's a metaphor. My belief system is that gravity is gravity. It's going to affect everything, in some way. So I'm beyond the metaphor into universal application with it, and every nonprofit organization can benefit from it. And I know there's a lot of work that's attempted to be done, and sometimes it's really hard. And when you have the principle down, I think it becomes a little bit easier and kind of know what levers to pull.
Get the principle down. That's a soundbite. So people may wonder why I'm talking to a business coach for nonprofits and but we're running a for-purpose business. Well, there's a lot of business principles we need to apply, and they're a lot more difficult in this setting. So, Chip, people write goals. So this is another layer. They have goals. Why do they need to focus on momentum as well?
Well, I think the goals are part of the momentum. I think fundamentally, with momentum, and I'll try not to go too deep into deconstructing all this, but it's mass times velocity is the equation. I think it's one of the easiest physics things to understand is mass times velocity. And once you understand that underlying that has to be energy, or velocity doesn't work, you have three things that you need to worry about every day. And so, if you want to have velocity, velocity is a vector. So a vector, by definition in science, has to have a distance, a direction, and a speed. And all of those things really align to goals. I think when you have a crystal clear image of who you're trying to help, how you're going to help them, and how every person can play a role in that, suddenly it becomes a set of objectives that people are needing to meet to further the mission of the nonprofit. So there's a there's a part in my book where I talk about a lot of people find energy, and I found this definitely in small business, but I've even unfortunately seen it in the nonprofit world. There's a field that we get excited about something that we're going to change. We get very excited about it. But if it doesn't have that direction, that clear goal, the tangible, measurable thing that you're trying to do, that energy can become like the pinwheel firework from my childhood, where you're basically spinning around in circles, expending your energy and the energy of a lot of other people, but you're not really getting anywhere. That's a big part of the clarity that I try to bring in my coaching practice is what is it exactly that you're trying to accomplish, and how would you measure that to the point that you feel like the bigger vision that you had when you started is all the pieces are getting filled in because of the progress that you're making.
So you mentioned the book. So tell us about the book. I think I see a copy there.
Yeah, it's my book called The Bizix Way: Powering Your Small Business to Maximum Momentum. Yeah, so it came out in 24, and it's published with Forbes. And in the book, this is what I do in the book is really apply the momentum equation to business. And I do believe, there's some distinct things about nonprofit organizations, but still effectively, it's a business with a mission, a vision, mission, and goals for everybody. So throughout the book, if you ever wondered about momentum and how it would apply, we start with energy, we go to velocity, we talk about the idea of net force, which I think is huge for nonprofits, is that no matter how hard you're trying to move in the direction you want, there's a lot of forces that are impacting you. Hopefully you get a tailwind, but most of the time, they feel like headwinds or side winds, and how you plan for that. And then, we get into mass, and we could probably talk about mass all day long, but mass is the density that you have. It's not necessarily the size of your organization, but it's the weight of the problem, of the solution to the problem that you're trying to solve, and you as a leader, all the people that you employ, and just how strong you are, how developed you are as a leader, and the disciplines that you need to execute on. And goes on to some other topics that are very important, like friction. Friction is a big goal chapter. So if you're interested in goals, we could talk about the friction chapter a little bit. But friction and leverage are also important when you're considering momentum. So they're not necessarily packed into the formula, but they are factors. So it'll take you through that. We've got the book has a QR code to go to a resource center. If you want to think about doing a SWOT analysis or things for your nonprofit, they're accessible through the book, and all you have to do is scan the QR code, and you'll open it up and get to use all the different tools.
You also talk about how clarity impacts momentum. You want to say something about that?
Yes. I think fundamental to the book and even the writing of the book is there's just so many options. I found it myself in starting my practice. I don't care what discipline you're in today's age, there are multiple options for anything you do. And I am absolutely the classic husband that goes to the grocery store and blows up my wife's phone because I don't know if I need the low cal or the low sodium or the, whatever flavor, that's just how our world is. But when you think about that and the idea of options, like when you get the clarity, it's a huge energy gain for you that you're so purposeful toward the goal, and you have complete clarity. You're not distracted. You're not distracted about your mission. You're not having mission creep. There are a lot of factors to it. But I go back to like how important that is for the energy of an organization. You can't have velocity without energy. And people try to move forward with companies. In the book, there's a reference to the formula for speed, which I couldn't reproduce, but speed and energy have a squared relationship. So if you're trying to move twice as fast toward your target, you need 4 times the energy. And I think this is where I find a lot of entrepreneurs and really nonprofit executives need to check in on this. Is where's your energy toward that mission and vision and what you're trying to accomplish, and where's your board's energy? And I find that to be one of the most daunting parts of a nonprofit is the distribution of that into other people that are adjacent to the nonprofit that are vital for its survival and success. So that clarity to me is like you're cutting off all the different outlets for energy to seep out of the organization in directions that are not productive in moving you forward.
They have a lot of activity, very little progress. Because
Yeah.
when I find when leaders criticize their boards, I say, well, what's your role in that? So talk about what are some of the major definitions of where people aren't clear and how can they change that?
I think the first moment of clarity is the vision and the mission. And you and I were talking earlier about churches, and I don't want to pick on churches, but it's a personal thing for me about where we are today with churches and what is the clarity of the mission of a particular church. I've been in many places where it seems like the important thing is that membership is growing, but the energy is really around the gospel mission of serving people. And so the people can get distracted by like the day to day. If you get into goals, you want to grow, things look a certain way. But if you pull back and think about what is the clear mission that we have is to be disciples that serve underserved populations of the immigrant, the hungry, I mean all that type of thing. But my experience in church is that that is it's a small piece of the budget when you get down to it is outreach, but it's supposed to be the most important thing. So are we clear, are we clear about what we're trying to do? Because if all we're trying to do is grow membership, it doesn't necessarily have the energy of the real mission of the church, which is, being great servants in the community. So I think that is a place where people can get really bogged down in like the day-to-day detail being the main thing. And it's just kind of a route to get to the main thing. So people aren't clear on, where the ultimate goal is, like the vision, the mission, where you're headed, what it looks like when the vision has been accomplished. I mean, I think that's one of the most difficult things for any business, but I think especially for nonprofit, a well articulated vision statement coupled with a good communicator of how that effort changes people's lives and changes the community should be absolutely enrapturing to everybody that hears it. But it's almost like the only time you hear it, you might see it on the wall, when you're in the office, but it's kind of like, well, we're going to do our 3-year strategic plan, and people put it up there, and kind of, it'll be kind of a backdrop, but it's the main thing. Like, are we clear on that? I mean, what will be different? What will be different when we're at our most robust, successful selves in this organization? What is it one block of town? Is it an entire city? Is it what's going to be different in people's lives? Are they going to be more literate? How would we measure that? But sometimes it feels like there's a desire for people to be together and doing good in the world, which I'm all for it. I think it's very energizing, but to actually move an organization forward, to get funding, to gain employees, to make a difference. If you haven't like picked that apart to the nth degree to say, we're not that, we're this, and this is the person that we're trying to help. It's going to be a long slog. It's a tough world out there, and it's that level of differentiation that you have about who you're trying to help. And I think sometimes we're afraid to be too narrow. We think, well, let's help. And there's a lot of different things you can do with budget money, but what's the main thing that you do that you're good at, that you have the passion for it? I think that level of clarity has got to be there, and then the clarity for every person and every board member about what their role in that is and how they affect that vision over time. Some people come into work and there's a disconnection in that. It's kind of like, well, I'm working the email list, and then they're not connected to the vision, the outcome, the desire to be different in the world. So I think all that clarity makes a huge difference here. I feel like I'm rambling on now, so
No,
you
no,
want me to
you're
shut up, just raise your fist.
no, no, no. If people are drifting by and just catching this on this the live stream, the last 4 minutes have been key for you getting unstuck. You wonder why you didn't not get progress. Wonder why people aren't joining your board. You wonder why donors aren't jumping in and helping you because that you're not clear right there. That's a very essential piece that we all need to spend time on that. We talk about activity, and Chip, what you highlighted was the results. It's the impact of our work. So we tend to do this rush and do all this work and then we rest up. So there, talk about the role of consistency and discipline. Consistency is more important you teach than intensity when you're building momentum. Talk about that a little bit.
I think momentum involves force. There's an energy. I mean, if you're trying to move something, there has to be a push on it. I mean, that's inertia. Like you've got to dislodge it and get it moving. And my experience, and again, this is primarily in the for-profit world, but I've had plenty of nonprofit experiences too, is that there is a moment or a period of time at the beginning and thereafter probably once a year, where there's an incredible burst of energy on the organization to move forward. So it's like, we have this idea, there's an organization here that works with the unhoused, tremendous energy on it. And what you find is that in physics, force is a cumulative thing. So, you could have 10 people push something once and it'll move, but it's just as good to have people touch it 10 times. I mean, to not muster that mass like every single time you want to move. It's like you keep pushing and you keep pushing, you keep pushing. I mean, they're taps all along the way, and that cumulative effect is what really makes the difference. So I would say, at the founding, you mass all this energy, you maybe organize a board, you get some money, you're getting started, and that energy output is completely draining, and you find yourself, okay, now we're going, and what do we do? And you got to reach deep to find the energy to keep pushing it. And that can be a burnout. And I'd say even every single year, every nonprofit I've ever worked with has an annual event, and tremendous energy on the fundraise. They're out talking to people. They're trying to bring new people into the fold and that type of thing. There's a huge energy out. It's kind of up for discussion how long that lasts, how long that continues to motivate and move the organization forward. What's better is that people are doing that every week or every month in some way. There's somebody that's pushing on it, and they're calling people and they're talking to people. They're talking to people in the community, and it doesn't have to be, in the grand ballroom of whatever hotel that we had a big blowout with all kinds of energy there. I mean, it's much more sustainable to do it over time in a very intentional way with the right people. And I find, again, I mean, I find that in small business, just getting started. All the paperwork getting started and all the effort to put a product on the market. And then you find out, okay, this is my life now. Like I need to do this every single day. And that's where you can start losing momentum is you just don't have the energy for it anymore. So it's really, really important. Like I'm much more in favor of slow, controlled growth that compounds over time than what we find a lot in our economy now, which is like the dream of this electrifying growth story that we went from 0 to 100 miles an hour overnight. It's not how it works for most people. I mean, it's very intentional and long term in the focus.
So momentum is not fast. Momentum is consistency, but it's forward movement. So what are some of the barriers that you see that leaders, maybe they're self-inflicted barriers. What are some of the barriers that they have for momentum?
If I could just comment on that real quick too, Hugh. That formula, I want to go back to it just to make sure everybody has an understanding, because
Mhm.
momentum does not have to be fast.
Mhm.
It is not. If you have a critical mass moving at a relatively low speed, I always it's too long a story to tell, but I had a friend in the short line railroad industry, and one day he told me that he wanted to get a unit coal train to run across his track, like it would be Shangri-La. He's made it. And he said, Chip, those trains are like I don't know how many cars it is, like 150 cars. It's like 20 million pounds or something. And when those cars are moving, even at 25 or 30 miles an hour, it takes like 2 miles to stop it. That's how much momentum it has. So it's somewhat speed, but it's really a measure of force. And the force that you have in the sector that you're serving, I mean, whether it's business or nonprofit, it's the force you have to be present and make a difference. And so, the mass part of that is really, again, how unique is the solution or mission, the need that you're serving, I would say, for a nonprofit, and who has been brought into the fold that has that kind of weight in the community that you're trying to serve, that even if not you're not growing at 50% a year or whatever, you're getting things done. I mean, like when you look at the scoreboard of the people that you've helped, like it's amazing the number of people that you've helped. That's
Mhm.
momentum, and it's got to continue over time. So I would say, to the final, the other part of your question, and thank you for letting me digress a little bit there. But what do leaders run into? What are the obstacles? A lot of them can be self-inflicted or self-imposed. Um, Leaders in general, leadership to me, and you do this a lot, Hugh. I mean, it's a lifelong learning process, and I think sometimes we're put in positions to lead that we're not ready for, and sometimes we don't have the skills to lead at the level for what the organization requires. And so I think it's always important, to check in on yourself about where you are, whether you're the right person, that type of thing. The second thing that I would say, and this is particularly directed to the nonprofit world, I view as one of the most significant barriers to momentum is this idea. Sometimes people get that. Okay, I started it. I'm a visionary. I started it up. I've got this board, and it's killing me. Like I don't know financials. I just know how to help people. I'm going up. Well, then the board, if you're decent at building boards, there's going to be some type of organizational leadership discipline in there. There's going to be, and they're going to say, well, what we really need someone that has a higher level of leadership skill, but they need to know how to lead a larger organization. Well, you've immediately gone out of this incredibly high energy zone of the entrepreneur. You follow, Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited. You've gone right into the manager, the technician, and that person is not. It would be hard for me to believe that the succeeding leader could possibly have the energy toward the mission that the founder had. I mean, it's much more administrative CEO level kind of mentality. And what the organization really needs at that point is the person who's like more committed than even the founder to the idea of the change that you're trying to make. And those transitions can be really difficult. And I know you've seen it, Hugh. I mean, you're the expert here, but I've seen people go through two or three in that next generation before they ever find the person that can really
Oh yeah.
rise to the occasion at that level. So
Oh yeah.
when
Oh yeah.
when you think about that, it's like all of that is like counter force against where you're trying to move that nobody really anticipated. I mean, you're just struggling to get the right person in the locomotive to drive the train, and that's what you find. I mean, I tell business owners. I mean, I would always scan the external environment for what is going to present the greatest risk to your mission, and make sure you have contingency plans for it. Right now, it's like my sense. I'm not that active in it. My sense is that giving is tough right now. I mean, I think there's just so much uncertainty with the stock market. It's been kind of up and down, and sometimes people get reluctant over market conditions about what they're going to give or employment conditions. And you've got other agencies or nonprofits coming in trying to do the same thing, and to constantly refresh the idea of what you're doing, because it's not going to, there's no way it can stay the same. I mean, it can't. I mean, it's just, if you believe in kind of an ever evolving universe, believe it about your nonprofit. I mean, it's just a constant evolution of the mission and where your unique talents, interests, and gifts can show up to make a difference. And I think those are probably the two biggest things for a nonprofit leader on
Well,
momentum.
great stuff today. In our last couple of minutes, people want to know where to find you. They can go to chiphiggins.com,
Yep.
ChipHiggins. Whoops, I just let it go. So there's people listening on audio. So talk to them so they can see with their ears what's there.
Yeah, so my website, if you go to that website, you're going to see a fairly well-preserved middle-aged man up against a brick wall.
Uh-huh. There's your book.
There'll be an offer for a free chapter of the book, and up in the right corner, you'll see a yellow tab. If you, for those that are watching, if you want to click on that Bizix quiz,
Uh-huh.
There's just a little diagnostic for yourself about how momentum is showing up in your organization. And I'm not, believe me, I'm not like taking names to try to scam anybody or anything like that. It's a useful quiz to kind of go through the chapters of my book and just kind of self-reflect on, do I have a direction, distance, and speed? And maybe if I don't, maybe we should gather up as a team and figure out what that is. I mean, where's the energy coming from in our organization? And by the way, do I have a culture that promotes energy distribution? I mean, that's a huge thing. Like, are you at a point where it's time to develop a culture where things are humming? People are resonant with each other every single day. That can be extremely difficult when you get down to just, this is your job, go do it. But I mean, there's no hum there. So it's a great quiz. I think it's like 10 or 12 questions. And if you take that, there'll be some recommendations in there. It's totally free. I would go check that out. And then the other thing that I'll just mention, in addition to that site, I have a business site. It's called bizix.com. And in there, I actually have a new agent for the book. So it's an AI contextualized experience with the book that I developed last year. And there's a 7-day free trial for that. I don't even take a card in advance, but you'll be amazed, like for thinly staffed organizations, this could be the best companion. I mean, it's ingested in my book and everything that I've ever written. It's got other, things in it. And it's just prepared to have a conversation with you about what's on your mind about momentum in your organization. And it's one of the best things I've ever done, honestly. I mean, I'm not saying that braggadociously. It's just I've been doing this for a long time, and like all this has come together in a way that I feel like people can be served without putting a lot of money into it, but really just making sure that you're disciplined about wanting to improve when it comes to the perspective of momentum.
There's the final shot, discipline. We got to be focused and disciplined for momentum. Chip, wonderful tips today. And remind people there'll be a transcript on the website for this. The replay is on the website. If you're on a podcast, it'll be in your podcast. So Chip, thank you and then we'll have the link to your website, both of those. So if you'll send me that other website, we'll post that link for people. And I find that people who are successful do what others are not willing to do. So take that quiz. I'm gonna go do that myself because I run a nonprofit.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that, Hugh. I appreciate it.
And thank you for being my guest today. This was very informative.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Hugh. It really means a lot to me that you'd have me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching The Nonprofit Exchange.